CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Live from London, this is The World Today.
Hello, I'm Jamie Owen. Welcome to the programme. Our top stories: heightened security as Belfast prepares to welcome the President of the United States to celebrate 25 years of the Good Friday peace agreement. Our other headlines: more than 17,000 troops from the United States and the Philippines take part in the largest ever joint combat exercises between the two countries. And who will regulate the robots? China's cyberspace officials solicit public opinion on how to manage AI-empowered chatbots. US President Joe Biden arrives in Northern Ireland shortly to mark the 25th anniversary of the signing of the Good Friday Agreement. Security has been ramped up across the province ahead of this trip. The historic accord brought to an end 3 decades of sectarian violence. Biden is to hold talks with the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak in Belfast before travelling on to the Irish Republic, the home of his ancestors. The President pledged the continuing support of the United States for peace in Northern Ireland ahead of his arrival. Well, let's talk to our correspondent Peter Oliver. Peter, how is Belfast preparing for this event?
Hi. Well, a large-scale security operation has been underway in Belfast pretty much since Monday lunchtime. Very visible, increased number of police officers around the hotel where Joe Biden will be staying. We've seen barriers closed across one of the streets nearby. Pedestrians are still able to walk by, but it's blocking off any vehicles looking to go through there. We also have seen some 300 extra officers drafted in from Great Britain to aid with the security operation here in Belfast. And we also heard before Joe Biden arrived, around a week before Joe Biden arrived, that the terror threat here in Northern Ireland had been raised by the British security services from substantial to severe. What that means is that they believed a terror attack was highly likely. It's a big step up in the terror warning levels here. Now, Joe Biden will be going to the University of Ulster while he's here to open a new building. That's the main event that he's taking part in. We had thought he would be coming here to Stormont to speak. That isn't going to be happening because the Northern Ireland Assembly isn't in session. It's all part of the agenda for the commemoration of 25 years of the Good Friday Agreement, which of course the United States was a major player in making happen. Senator George Mitchell chaired those talks, and the US is an international guarantor of that treaty. So Joe Biden coming here to mark that, but also to visit the Irish Republic as well, where he will be heading just around lunchtime on Wednesday.
Peter, thank you for that. Our correspondent, Peter Oliver. Well, Bertie Ahern was one of the architects of the Good Friday Agreement. First elected in 1977, Ahern served as a member of the Irish Parliament for almost 35 years. In 1997, he was elected Irish Prime Minister. He was the first person in over 60 years to be elected to that office on 3 successive occasions. And a defining moment in Irish politics and Irish history. Bertie Ahern played a significant role in the successful negotiation and the signing of the Good Friday Agreement in April 1998. It's a great pleasure to take you now live to Dublin and talk to the former Taoiseach Bertie Ahern. Bertie Ahern, welcome. You were one of the architects of the Good Friday Agreement. You were in the room. Tell us what it was like when you knew, after all of those disappointments, all of that failure, all of that time, finally you have a deal.
Yeah, Jamie, it was a great day. I think everyone was exhausted. The discussions had gone on really around the clock that week. There were 2 or 3 nights in a row where there was literally no break, and the previous 10 days there was very, very little break. And that was after discussions that had started on the previous September. So they ran from September 97 right through to Good Friday 98. So you can imagine the ups, the downs, the disappointments, the near things and the things that were knocking us off course. To finally get there was a great day for, I think, the public in Northern Ireland, because they were weary of, so many decades, as your reporter said, of conflict, bombs, killings, shootings, mayhem. So to bring it to a conclusion, and thankfully the last 25 years has by and large been very peaceful. There has been some incidents, but, thankfully fairly rare.
The Belfast Telegraph, I think, gave the peace talks a 5% chance of success. How did you get it to work in simple terms?
Well, I think probably, to take it simply, Tony Blair and I decided that we would go for inclusive talks, meaning that we would try to have everybody at the table, everybody that was willing to be at the table, including those parties that had previously been linked to those that were involved in paramilitary violence. That was a risk. But anyway, on the basis that they were stopping violence, or they were prepared to stop violence and sign up to the Mitchell Principles, George Mitchell Principles, which basically said you can't be involved in politics and involved in violence at the same time. And then on the other side, we went for comprehensive talks, which included all the big issues, the reform of policing, the changing of criminal justice legislation, the removing of a lot of the draconian legislation that was necessary during the Troubled years, the release of prisoners on licence within the 2-year period, decommissioning of arms of paramilitaries, demilitarisation of Northern Ireland. So it was a huge agenda of items. And I think that the reason for that, Jamie, was that by trying to cover the items that were important to all the different groups, we could have went for a narrower agenda, but I don't think that would have worked. So it was inclusive by the people that were there, comprehensive by the issues that were on the table.
For an international audience, perhaps a new generation who know nothing of the violence and the division, can you give us a sense of how life changed in these islands after the Good Friday Agreement?
Well, I suppose if you looked at the 25 years, I mean, the daily routine never really changed over that 25, 30 years. There was bombings most days, there was shootings every day, there was killings most days. I think it was actually killing every day. There were terrible atrocities on all sides. You'd think you'd seen everything, and then something even worse happened. Somebody going into a bar and shooting everybody in the bar, regardless of who they were, what they were. Car bombs blowing places apart. One stick in my mind, blowing a butcher shop apart on a Saturday morning when people were in buying their, it was a fishmonger shop, I think, and all of these terrible atrocities. And the daily routine for a lot of people in Northern Ireland was you went outside in the morning, you checked under your car to see if there was any bombs or booby traps. That's what children saw their parents do, particularly if they were linked to any of the state areas. Life kind of changed at 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the evening. There was no nightlife. People went off the streets of all the towns and cities very early in the evening. And, every day the news was the same. The funerals, preachers of various religions making their remarks at the deaths of loved ones, bereaved families. So that was the order of the day for 30 years, Jamie. And effectively, other than the rare occasion now, that all ended. And people can go to school, go to college, go to work. Nightlife in Belfast is like London or Dublin. So it did really change. And of course, economically wise, people can work. There's more investment, there's more jobs. It's not perfect, but compared to where we were, it's a massive improvement.
The Good Friday Agreement was, in the words of one British government, a master of constructive ambiguity. I think Peter Hain called it a masterpiece of constructive ambiguity and pragmatic generosity. I mean, as you say, the Good Friday Agreement didn't fix everything, did it? This was the start of a journey rather than the end.
Yeah, I think, Jamie, for an international audience, I think the peace bit worked really well, and with the exception of a few incidents which we wish they didn't occur, of course, naturally enough. The politics hasn't been as good. The institutions of the Good Friday Agreement, which are basically the assembly, like a parliament, the executive, like a government. They haven't been meeting. It's been stop-go. They find different reasons for it to collapse. I won't go into the complications of those for your audience, but they by and large have nothing to do with what the agreement was. So, it's a little bit annoying that sometimes people get aggrieved about something, and instead of just, as they would anywhere else in the world, give their speeches and give the reasons why they're aggrieved, they pull down the whole institutions and they don't function. It's an extreme way of dealing with things, but we have to get over that. It's taken our politicians time. My own view is that politicians are behind the people. The people seem to be always ahead, and what I suppose those who are in power, and I'm still kind of indirectly involved, but those who have the task nowadays is to try and get these things back on track and get people to act normally and work together. It still is a divided society, Jamie. There still is Catholic Protestants, there still is Unionists, Loyalists, Nationalists, Republicans. There's still segregated education. There's still some peace walls in Belfast. So I'd love to tell you it's perfect, but there's still plenty of work for the rising generation to deal with.
One of the mothers whose son was killed by the IRA told the UK's Guardian newspaper this week that the Good Friday Agreement brought peace but no justice. She said UK Prime Minister Tony Blair let Sinn Féin and the IRA off the hook. What was the price paid for peace injustice? There's been no truth and reconciliation process like there was in South Africa.
Yeah, well, there's been a number of attempts at that for the last 10, 15 years. The difficulty, I'm very familiar with the South African model because at the time I spent a lot of time with de Klerk and Mandela. Both of them came to Ireland and gave generously up their time. And the peace and reconciliation process in South Africa was that somebody would go before the peace and reconciliation and you would list out your crimes, and then effectively you got a total amnesty. Now, the people in Northern Ireland don't want that. They want a system where there's more, judicial control. They're not trying to lock everybody up. That isn't what the relatives do, but they do not want this thing of, just total amnesty and you can get away with it. So we haven't been able to find a model that has really satisfied people. And I have to say, there is legislation in front of Westminster at the moment. I won't get into the ins and outs of it, but the only thing all the parties in Northern Ireland agree on, and they don't agree on much, Jamie, is that they disagree that this legislation is the appropriate way of dealing with it. So I think that legislation is probably dead in the water. If it's not, it should be. But on the other side of it, we haven't been able to find a process that deals with the legacy of the Troubles, and that we need to try and find a basis of doing that. It's not easy, but because there's about 30,000 active files, and I don't think any system can deal with that amount of files.
As we've been reporting, President Biden is about to fly in to join the 25th anniversary. Politics in Northern Ireland is pretty much at a stalemate at the moment. The devolved assembly is not sitting. Some hope that President Biden will push the reluctant parties back into government and normal devolved politics might restart. Is that realistic or even desirable? I mean, Biden is Irish and he's made his Irish lineage very clear. Clinton, of course, didn't have that burden of history. How difficult is this going to be?
Well, I think my deep regret, Jamie, is that President Biden isn't addressing Stormont today. That would have been a wonderful occasion. And in fairness to Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, he did everything he could since Christmas to try and make that happen. And the Irish government did so as well. Our Taoiseach Leo Varadkar and Micheál Martin. Didn't prove possible. One party wouldn't agree, a Democratic Unionist Party. So Joe Biden is now making his main speech at a wonderful new university building opening. And I'm sure he'll meet the party leaders there. But I don't feel, to answer your question directly, Jamie, I don't think anything he says will bring the institutions back, in the next month anyway. But hopefully we might make progress towards the end of May or into June. But I'd underline the word hope.
Bertie Ahern, great pleasure to talk to you. And while you're speaking, we've been watching live pictures of Air Force One taxiing, carrying US President Joe Biden. My thanks to our special guest, the former Taoiseach, Bertie Ahern.
Thank you.
The United States and the Philippines have launched their largest ever joint military drills with more than 17,000 troops and live fire drills. Officials say the two-week operation shows their commitment to peace and stability in the region. Our correspondent Gretchen Malalad reports now from Manila.
The Philippine-U.S. Balikatan military exercises started Tuesday morning. This is the largest joint military exercises to be held in the country, with more than 17,000 American, Filipino, and Australian troops participating in the exercises. The U.S. contingent has around 12,000 servicemen, while the Armed Forces of the Philippines has just over 5,000 military personnel. So the number of participants in this year's exercises has nearly doubled from last year's 9,000, and also stands out from previous exercises in terms of size and scope. Balikatan, which means shoulder to shoulder in Filipino, characterizes the Philippine-U.S. alliance with an aim to develop mutual defense capability, maritime security, counterterrorism, and cyber security. The military exercises will run from April 11 to the 28th of the month in different locations in the country. So the military drills also follow the official announcement of 4 new military locations under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA, which allows the expansion of American military presence from the 5 existing sites under the deal signed in 2014. So in total, there are 9 U.S. military locations all over the Philippines. 3 of the new sites will be in the northern Philippines, and 1 will be in the southern Philippines. The opening ceremony of the Balikatan was just concluded inside Camp Aguinaldo, which is the main military camp of the country. I am now outside the camp, where dozens of members of the group Bayan Muna have staged a protest earlier. They are against the Balikatan exercises and the opening of new military locations in the country that will be used by U.S. troops under EDCA, or Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. Renato Reyes from Group Bayan says that the Philippines is just being used by the U.S. for the military intervention in the region. He says that the Philippines should stand for regional peace and asserts its sovereign rights, which should be independent from any foreign dictate. He also added that the War Games is to project U.S. power in Asia and not intend to help the Philippines modernize its military capabilities. Women's, youth, and environmental groups have also joined in the protest and expressed their concern over the new military sites. Activists also burned a U.S. flag during the program earlier. The Philippine Defense Department assured Filipinos that these new sites will be mutually operated by the two countries, and it stressed that it will not turn into a permanent basing facilities for the United States. It also said that the new sites would create jobs and boost local economies where the sites are located, but many Filipinos are still worried about these new military locations. Gretchen Malalad, CGTN, Manila.
South Korea says information leaked U.S. documents which appear to show sensitive internal talks between Seoul security officials is untrue and altered. The intelligence papers include South Korean discussions about pressure from the U.S. to send ammunition to Ukraine. This has the potential to upset diplomatic relations, as it suggests the United States could be spying on its decades-long ally. But Seoul says it will not impact its close relationship with Washington. Hundreds of people have been forced to flee their homes as wildfires swept through eastern South Korea. Almost 600 firefighters and more than 40 fire engines were called to help extinguish the flames. Strong winds and dry weather intensified the fires, which are now under control. China has urged the United States to stop meddling in its affairs. Tensions between the two countries are high after Taiwan's leader met senior politicians in the United States last week, despite criticism from Beijing. You're watching CGTN. Still ahead, can humans stay ahead of artificial intelligence? Regulating artificial intelligence, chatbots next.
Ever wondered what's the difference between a bear and a bull market? Where are the cash cows? And who are the lame ducks? And what exactly are black swans, grey rhinos, and unicorn companies? Make sense of it all with Global Business, only on CGTN.
There's a new agenda for a new world, accelerating change in almost every part of our lives. It's shifting the norms of how we work, travel, and connect. How we think, interact, and develop. It's a new reality, a new agenda with me, Juliette Mann.
Hello, welcome back. A reminder of our top stories. Heightened security as Belfast prepares to welcome the President of the United States to celebrate 25 years of the Good Friday Peace Agreement. Our other headlines, more than 17,000 troops from the United States and the Philippines take part in the largest ever joint combat exercises between the two countries. Now, how do we regulate the robots? Chinese regulators have released draft rules designed to manage how companies develop generative artificial intelligence products like ChatGPT. This comes after several Chinese companies revealed their versions of the AI bot. Our correspondent Li Jianhua has been following this confusing story.
Yes, Jimmy, as you said, this is a little bit confusing, but Alibaba is the latest to jump on the bandwagon to roll out its AI-powered chatbot, which is called Tongyi Qianwen. And this chatbot is able to speak both Chinese and English. So a wave of companies have rolled out are working on ChatGPT-style products, including China's Baidu, NetEase, SenseTime. Of course, other big names include Google, Amazon, and Meta. And why are so many companies working on AI-powered chatbots? Part of the reason is the technology's huge market. It's estimated the chatbot market will grow from nearly $138 million in 2023 all the way up to about $455 million in 2027. So with the market for chatbots expanding and the implications AI may bring to the world, some are taking measures to rein in its fast development. And the European Union has proposed the rules to restrict the use of AI in critical infrastructure, education, law enforcement, and judicial system. And Italy has temporarily banned ChatGPT, and in the United States, the schools in New York City have banned it altogether. So China has released a draft of rules to regulate generative AI, and the content creators must be in line with China's core socialist values, and the measures must also be taken to prevent discrimination and unfair competition over there. And of course, copyright and privacy is to be protected, and providers must ensure users submit their real identities. And Jimmy, you may want to pay special attention to this. An AI-generated newsreader has just debuted on the news media outlets in Kuwait. She is speaking in Arabic, but here is an idea of how it works.
أنا فضة. أول مذيعة في الكويت تعمل بالذكاء الاصطناعي في مؤسسة كويت نيوز الإعلامية. ما هي نوعية الأخبار التي تفضلونها؟ لنسمع آراءكم.
Oh, she's very good, isn't she? And probably much cheaper than me. I mean, since the days of Frankenstein, humans have worried about what we create getting out of control. But I mean, this isn't fiction, this is fact. I mean, AI getting out of control, that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, Frankenstein, as you said, I would say is Pandora's box. I mean, one of the biggest concerns right now, as you said, is job replacement. I mean, people like both you and I probably will lose our jobs in the future, maybe, hopefully. That wouldn't happen. Of course, it's very helpful work-wise, but the thing is we should be always aware that there could be some factual errors. So I did some research here. So
this is a live experiment on television.
Yeah, we're doing this. So I asked the chatbot to write a news piece on how many companies are rolling out AI-powered chatbots. So this is a wonderful piece here. So it quoted some recent data from Gartner. It's estimated that by 2022, 70% of customer interactions will involve AI-powered chatbots. But we have no idea where the sources are, so that could be really tricky, unless it is some glittery mistakes that we can find out, like when China was established. So if they got to the number 1, and then we can find out, but sometimes we just don't. So for some schoolwork, let's say, and as I said just now, in New York City, and the schools have already banned ChatGPT just in case that some children or some pupils may cheat in exams. And also privacy, I think that is on top of everything. So privacy is a big thing because ChatGPT is basically conversational. So when you talk to the chatbot, it is disarming. And you may probably leak your address, your social activity, and everything. So compared with Google, chatbot or ChatGPT in general, the AI-powered chatbot could be more data hungry, and then so accidentally you may leak your secret.
So everyone is now getting worked up about regulation, whether it's regulators in China, in the EU, Italy, the United States. The truth is, the world's record when it comes to regulating the internet, regulating technology, is rather checkered, isn't it?
Absolutely. We know that it is pretty new, so it is a new industry, it's a new sector, though it is not that new. But we know that all countries have been investing heavily a lot. So we have been hearing about artificial intelligence, AI, all the times, or generative AI. So if we look at the market value, as I said just now, back in 2023, it was around $138 million. So if we move on to 2027, it will be around $455 million. So that depends on if the governments will roll out some restrictive measures against AI. So that is basically the projection right now. So I think why it is very difficult to regulate AI is they don't know where to focus their attention, the regulatory attention. So there are various products based on AI. Some of them are, as we say, autonomous systems. Some of them are conversational, or they rely on facial recognition. So countries differ on their opinions or their approaches to privacy or data transparency. So AI is also developing too fast. And we know there are always some breakthroughs. So whenever there are some breakthroughs, and the countries or the governments will have to change their laws. So that is the reason why it is getting really difficult to regulate AI in general.
I think you and I need to go in search of a new job. Li Jianhua, thank you very much indeed. Tens of thousands of junior doctors have started a 4-day walkout across the UK. The strike over pay will cause major disruption to the National Health Service, with 350,000 patient appointments facing cancellation. The government warned of unprecedented disruption to hospitals and a risk to patient safety. Junior doctors make up nearly half of the medical workforce. This is their second strike in a month. The headlines again. Heightened security as Belfast prepares to welcome the President of the United States to celebrate 25 years of the Good Friday Peace Agreement. Our other headlines, more than 17,000 troops from the United States and the Philippines take part in the largest ever joint combat exercises between the two countries. And as we've been saying, Chinese regulators released draft rules designed to manage how companies develop generative AI products like ChatGPT. And that is the world today. Thank you for watching. There's more news on CGTN Europe's channel, on the Telegram app, or scan the QR code on the screen to get stories and updates sent direct to your phone. We're back with more news at the top of this hour. Coming up next, it's World Insight. For now, from all of the team in London, it's goodbye.